meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets, Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell, give 'em a hand, and let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the Mets, Mets of New York town, of New York town.
And we are live. How's it going, Mets and baseball fans? We have a lot to talk about for this weekly segment here at New York Mets Talk. Myself alongside Richie from Mets Media. Thank you all so much to everyone first chiming in. Big series recap we need to discuss for our New York Mets against the Phillies. And then we'll also be previewing the series upcoming starting tonight against the St. Louis Cardinals. And then towards the end of the show, we will be doing a live Q&A with some callers if you guys would like to join in. So a lot to discuss. I'm very happy to have you all here. Jupiter, Chris, Justin, Jack Palmero, lovely member here on the channel. What's up, buddy? Lucid, Benjamin, Joy, everyone, AB. Thank you all so much, Ariel, for chiming in. And Richie, my man, how are you doing? How was your weekend, buddy? And are you ready to get into this one?
Yeah, it was a very wild weekend for me and the New York Mets in particular. We got the Series W. I'm so excited to get deep into this because this was definitely the most intriguing, entertaining, craziest series of the season so far. This is probably becoming our, grittiest division rival with the Philadelphia Phillies because we versed them the most, and there's fights breaking out, and we're going to get deep into it. It's awesome to see the bats come alive because this bullpen, this starting pitching has been so good, and the hitting is the reason why we've been losing games. So it's awesome to see us get 17 total hits last night, break out with 8 runs, and get the job done. And I had a very busy weekend giving you guys all the latest news about the New York Jets draft. So I was very busy with the Mets, with the Knicks, with the Jets, and I'm so excited to be live with you guys talking about the Mets series victory over the Washington Nationals.
No, me too, man. Yeah, this was a very eventful weekend indeed. Definitely the craziest as we were talking pre-stream about this. And again, everyone chiming in. William, Eric, LFGM, what's up, my man? I know you're still on that ride. Okay, we'll see what happens, though. Again, it's funny, what I will say before we dive into this is why I love being a baseball fan so much, and I tweeted this out yesterday. You can go from literally wanting to end it all one night to wanting to streak through your neighborhood the next, just because of how quick things change in the game of baseball. You can have a bad series and you can have an amazing series, and you can have things not go your way for a week or two and then go your way for a month plus. That is what I love about baseball, is and everything's kind of short term, so you can't hang too heavy on something as long as there aren't any prolonged streaks. But with saying that, we're going to get in this for sure, so plenty to discuss. But let's start with this Philly series, because this was definitely a massive one for the Mets as they won this series again, as we know. But it was probably, as we stated already, one of the craziest series that we've seen. Definitely, in my mind, the most hectic to start the season by far. And again, I'm going to answer basically every question I already see in the chat, guys. Don't worry. We will be answering it throughout the stream, I assure you, along with answering some callers. So getting right into it, guys, let's talk about game one, all right? So we'll go a couple games back to game one where things were continuing to look down for the Mets. Where were they at this point in the season? Well, they were coming off a series sweep to, yes, the Red Sox, and that was abysmal. The offense wasn't there. Everyone was calling for Chili Davis's head, and still is to an extent, along with a lot of players not stepping up, whoever it may be. But then they go into this game, and the runs just continue to not produce. More of the same narrative for the Mets, unfortunately, as you had Marcus Stroman on the mound, who had a good outing. But if you look, the Mets lose this one 2-1, and that was definitely a tough pill to swallow for us. I really felt that everything was prolonged and continuing. A couple of highlights I would like to mention out of this game, however, that really started in the series were JD Davis. JD, who has been a hot topic in the offseason and to start this year with his defensive performance, has been making up for a lot of his play with his bat. And as you see, he was 2 for 3 on the day. Then Dominic Smith had the lone RBI and went for 1 for 4 on the day, starting to get out of his struggles. Marcus Stroman pitched scoreless 5 innings, gave up 2 runs, but they were unearned because they were due to not just errors that we saw. Pete Alonso had an error in the game along first. It was just a really bad play, but James McCann had a terrible game. There's no sugarcoating it. I love McCann, but that did not go well for him. There was a pass ball. It led to some runs coming in, and that is all that really transpired there. And Stroh only pitched 5 innings out of not even 70 pitches because he was dealing with some hamstring tightness, as I predicted as well. So again, that was a tough pill to swallow, but the bullpen continued to look stellar in that game. As you saw, Aaron Loop, Jeurys Familia, Miguel Castro, all those guys get scoreless 1 innings that they went in. And then if you look at the game overall, they were 1 for 14 with runners in scoring position, and they left 10 guys on base. So that was definitely a rough one, more of the same narrative. And Richie, is there anything that you would like to add on from that game 1 before we get into game 2?
Yeah, it was a frustrating game to watch. It was during the NFL draft, so I didn't get to watch the entire game, but I was flipping back and forth, and I was just so frustrated. Every time I turned on to the Mets game Friday night, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. We have great pitching. We only gave up 2 runs, and it was off of errors, and we can win this game with hitting, and it's that simple. And we've been relying too much of our pitching to get us W's, and the hitting has not been there. And it was just a frustrating win, especially a frustrating loss, especially like you said, coming off the Boston series where we could not hit for the life of us. And this team is a consistent offense away from getting a ton of series wins, a ton of wins. And that's what we can say. And then I know we're going to get into the next 2 games later on, but hey, the offense looks good last night in particular. So if we can get those bats hot, because last night's game aside, the bullpen gave up like 18 straight scoreless innings or something like that. So that is awesome that the bullpen is holding in, because in the beginning of the year, we were a little skeptical, like, oh, that's the weakness of our team. Starting pitching is great. The hitting's going to be great. The bullpen's going to be the question mark. But no, the bullpen has been stellar. The starting pitching has been stellar. The bats have been ice cold in talking about Friday night's game. So I didn't get to see every single, pitch on Friday night because of the NFL draft, but I was flipping in between. The biggest takeaway was we did not capitalize on runner in scoring position. It's that simple. We just do not get those clutch hits. And the 2 earned runs were not charged against Marcus Stroman because of the errors to McCann that I did see. So again, it's just infuriating. I remember I turned into the game and they looked like they had no energy in the 8th or 9th inning to even get any type of runs on the board. But hey, Saturday and Sunday is a different story.
Yeah, no, Saturday and Sunday was a different story indeed. And you're right. It was a different narrative, but a lot to talk about now as we get into game 2 and game 3. And again, thank you all so much, my Mets fans that are just chiming in. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you all so much. Quincy, Luis, Benjamin, Yoshima, a great member here on the channel. Yeah, we're going to get to Donnie. Don't you worry. Sal, again, thank you all so much for being here, guys. And if you haven't already, you're just chiming in, please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you're enjoying the stream. Help us get to 100 likes by the end of the stream. Always does mean a lot, guys. And help not just myself get a 7K subs for the next short-term goal here on the channel for consistent Mets content. But make sure to help Richie at Mets Media get a 1K. He's so close. Help him get there, guys. He's going to be doing a lot of great Mets content there throughout the season. But now let's get into game 2, because this is where the narrative definitely starts to change in a amazing fashion, might I add. So the Mets win this one 5-4, and it's all thanks to my guy that we're going to get to here shortly, and Michael Conforto.
Hey,
bro, let's look
our
at
guy.
Yeah, our guy. You're right. Okay, you're right. But I will say it is nice because I'll show you guys right here. In case you don't know, maybe you're new to the channel, Michael Conforto is my favorite player on the club. And to just show that further, a loyal member here on the channel, my man at the Card Coach sent me a custom card that was saying congratulations on 5K subscribers. What a great note. But as you see, the only player highlight in here was, yes, Michael Conforto. So, yes, I'm a big Michael Conforto guy. He got a lot of slack in the beginning of the season, rightfully so, but he has stepped up big as of late. And in this game, the highlights were not just Michael, who went 2 for 4 on the day, including a home run and 3 RBIs. And that home run did, in fact, come all the way in the ninth. So talk about really being clutch. But you had Pete Alonso, who went for 2 for 4 on the game, including 1 RBI. JD Davis was 1 for 3 in game 2 with 1 RBI. Dom Smith continued to start to break out some more, 1 for 2 for 4 on the day. And the pitching was not stellar. I will say that Taijuan Walker got worked it quite a bit. Unfortunately, gave up 4 runs in 6 innings. So Walker is a guy who I kind of expect to kind of be a little up and down throughout the year. I expect him, if they can have him to a 3.5 ERA all throughout the year, I think that's a real good thing, and he still has the potential to go beyond that. So Walker, not his best outing, but surely not his worst either. Aaron Loop, Trevor May, to start May, no pun intended, has been lights out since his opening day start against the Phillies. He has not given up a run since then, and that's been tremendous. And also Edwin Diaz gets the save in that one. So a lot of highlights in that game as the Mets won, and a very controversial game too, because throughout the game we saw a lot of really bad calls by the umps. Surprise, surprise. But then you had the most bizarre double play turn that I would like to talk about for a second towards as we were getting in the latter half of the game, as I'm sure you all remember. So you had a double play ball. Lindor is going for, I believe it was McCutchen running from first to second. He doesn't tag him, and then he throws a first, and then they call it safe. Well, on the run, they end up calling McCutchen out because he went outside of the base path for the running, when in reality he didn't. It was just a terrible call by the umps that they cannot overturn. It was one of those non-reviewable plays because of the MLB. So the Mets looked out huge in that situation. And on top of that, they also then reviewed the out on first that was originally safe. They realized that he was in fact out. So that was probably one of the craziest double plays I've seen. It's just a terrible performance. I know John Boy, broke that down on his channel too, on just how much of a joke that was on the umpiring side of things. But the Mets looked out huge in that scenario to get out of the jam. And then when you also look at this game in particular, the Mets were 4 for 6 this time of running scoring position. So talk about a difference. They only left 3 on base throughout the entirety of the game. And Brandon Nimmo and JD Davis did suffer injuries, unfortunately. I was worried about Nimmo originally because he's been dealing with some hip issues, but it was actually his finger that was an issue from that game. And then JD Davis having an issue with his left hand that I do believe was the same hand that got hit in the second game of the season. So nothing long-term with either of them. Nimmo ended up making a comeback towards the end of the game yesterday. So both of them look like that they will be okay, but it was a tough pill to swallow originally at that point to see 2 of our best hitters to start the season injured in that game. So Richie, what is your stance on this game too? Is there anything in particular that stood out to you? And then we will, of course, discuss the legend himself, Donnie Stevenson.
Yeah, what stood out to me is our guy Michael Conforto stepping up in the clutch. You guys know Wardy and myself are big Conforto fans, and even during his biggest slump, I wasn't one of those guys saying like, oh, he's a bum, he should walk in free agency, he's never going to get it right. Like, I knew Michael Conforto has that ability to break out of slumps. We've seen it from him. He has one of the best swings on the team, and when he gets hot, it's insane. And he has that ability, and I'm not saying he's going to play like this consistently throughout the year. That's what we have to keep an eye out for, because that's what's going to make or break him getting that contract or not, because consistency has always been his problem. But the biggest thing for me is the Mets gave up that lead, and yes, that play was insane in the with that double play with Lindor, and that was just a terrible call. But hey, it won in the Mets' favor, and I'm not complaining. But for the Mets to be up 4-2, and then for them to give up that 2-run homer, and then it's a tie game, I'm so happy Michael Conforto was the one that gave the Mets the lead in the 9th inning, and then Diaz to come in to shut the door, and we got the W. Michael Conforto, and I know we're going to get into Sunday's game eventually, but he had 3 hits last night. He looks like he's breaking out, and he's looking like, I'm telling you guys, when Michael Conforto is seeing the ball well and his timing is there and his footwork's good and he's not swinging out of the zone and he's making contact, he is going to be the best hitter on this team. I've always felt like that. He had the highest average last year on the team in just a small sample size, 60 games. I know that, but people really underrate Michael Conforto's talent at the plate because of his slump in the beginning of the year, because of him not showing up in the clutch and all that crazy stuff, leaving guys in scoring position, all that stuff. So I'm not concerned about Conforto. I love that he was the one that basically got us that W in the 9th inning, and then Diaz had a really good performance Saturday night. Last night, not so much because of that injury. But hey, I think the game ball goes to Conforto this weekend because he is such an important part of this team offensively. When he's hot, this offense is going to be scorching because he is a guy that can drive the ball left, center, right field. He can hit home runs. He can, deliver base hits, extra base hits. So he's a very up and down type of hitter. So hopefully this can calm him down and really get more consistency, because that's the biggest key for Conforto. So that's really my takeaway from that game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I also want to add one more thing going into this game, too, that I don't know why we just didn't mention because of how long the series felt. But in game one, really everything started not just because of the Mets continuing to lack on the offensive side of things, but let's also take things back to the whole situation with Jose Alvarado, if you will. If you guys don't recall everything that happened with Jose Alvarado, the left-handed reliever for the Philadelphia Phillies ended up striking out Dom Smith, and then they had a few choice words. Emotions were unbelievably high in regards to that because Jose Alvarado was a guy that, like many Philadelphia Phillies, liked to hold things for extended periods of time, going back to a week and a half, 2 weeks last time they faced off, because Alvarado back in Queens was throwing way up high on Conforto right by his head. And Dom Smith at the time in that previous series had a couple choice words about it. And then Alvarado was basically brushing him off and talking smack. So then when you get to this and the wind was going crazy, Alvarado cannot hit the strike zone in that game one. And then he ends up still striking out Dom Smith. And then doing so basically challenges Dom Smith and calls him out for what happened previously in the previous series. Dom was saying, you know what, I'm a grown-ass man. You can meet me, wherever, whenever, and we will get something done. There's no need to be talking like that. And then Rhys Hoskins also was a little frazzled by Miguel Castro throwing inside on him for a walk when he never even touched him. Again, I say this all the time. Hoskins is by far the biggest hothead on the Phillies, one of the bigger ones I've ever seen in baseball. This guy, and I'm saying this in a joking manner, but I feel like he still holds Jacob Rame's name like everywhere he goes, from when Rame threw right by him a while ago and he took it seriously and they hit him a home run off of him when Rame isn't even an MLB caliber pitcher, was just with the Mets at the time. But still, I just want to add that in there because that ended up being a big factor in my mind. And the Mets finally gained a fire under their asses, no pun intended, to really sparking things. And then what did they credit the game two win? They also reference Donnie Stevenson. So the question is, who is Donnie Stevenson? Now, this is something that I was debating on doing a video on, but let's just talk about it right now real quick. So Donnie Stevenson, if you guys don't know, is probably one of the funniest things I've seen the Mets do in a while. And I love that the team is riding around him for sure. Donnie is a fictional character, but he's a great character. And there's many belief that Chili Davis, the Mets hitting coach that you all either love or hate, came up with in the first place. So you had Pete Alonso saying how, Donnie's been great. He's a hitting hire for them, has been with them for a bit now, has really helped them adjust their game. Pete Alonso did his best acting impression. This guy could win an award, straight face, talking about him the entire time. And then he realized, his last name's Stevenson. And then you get Conforto, can't even keep a straight face. He's just laughing, talking about him. And other players, JD yesterday, just continuing to add on about Donnie. And I love that. Look, I love stuff like that because baseball's so fun. You just need something. You need to come up with some type of joke, whether it's serious or not, to kind of get you in a groove. And they did that with Donnie. So I love that. I really do. Donnie Stevenson is a beast for the Mets. He is our saving grace. And if they go anywhere this year, we all have to credit Mr. Donnie Stevenson. So, Richie, any last words on Donnie before we get into the series finale last night? And boy, was that something.
Diesel Donnie or Donnie Diesel. That's what Pete said last night in the press conference. I love it, man. They are just riding this, character that they brought up, and it's kind of fun. The Mets offense have been struggling, as we know, and they wanted to bring up like, hey, we are actually putting in work. And it's because of this guy named Donnie Stevenson that came out of nowhere. And Steve Cohen's in on it. He tweeted saying that his, doesn't cost a lot of money to pay Donnie. So he's all for it. I love it, man. And I just love everything about the presence of the clubhouse, even when they're struggling or they're doing well. They're very even keeled. They have a very good camaraderie as a team. And you even heard Pete Alonso talking about Lindor, with the struggles. Like, he's not worried, and I'm not worried either. I think he's going to come around eventually. We probably will get into that later on the stream. Yes, but I love Donnie Stevenson. I just feel like he's somebody that is just going to be in the back of everybody's minds. And we're seeing McNeil get a lot of hits now. We're seeing Conforto breaking out. We're seeing Pete. So, hey, all credit goes to Donnie. Diesel Donnie. I love it. And I just love how this doesn't have anything to do with Donnie, but after every interview, Pete Alonso at the end, thanks, guys. LFGM.
I know. Yeah, he's going to hold that no matter what. Even if they say, we're like, Pete, you can't be saying this. He's like, no, I'm still going to do it. And I love that about Pete. And I just love this, that the Mets are actually riding on something. It feels like that they just need something to give them a purpose here. And that is a great segue in my mind going to game three. So again, all my Mets and baseball fans just chiming in, thank you all so much. I appreciate it. We're going to basically be answering every single question or statement you guys have, because I see a common trend here regarding a certain manager, and we'll get to him plenty, and then I'll have you guys come in as live callers for when we get to our Q&A segment towards the end of this stream. So again, thank you all so much, guys. Smash that like and subscribe on, helping us get to 100 likes, and also making sure to subscribe, not just myself, but Richie at Mets Media. But let's get into game 3 now, because this was the most entertaining, the most crazy game that I've seen, I think that we've seen easily all year. Even with all the drama that happened in the previous 2 games, game 1 in particular, this is where everything was so bittersweet, and karma was in fact served a dish with 3 runs. And we're going to get into that. But McNeil, what a monster day at the plate for Jeff, who's been struggling mightily for a bit now. If you guys don't recall, McNeil did change up his stance quite a bit, choking up on the bat a little bit more, not having too heavy of a swing. And I credit Draftneck Mark, because he was the one to first nobly announced that on Twitter, going back to the Red Sox series and how he's changing his approach. But McNeil went 4 for 6 on the day. So that is what I like to see. I'm hoping that is more of a trend continuing with McNeil, getting a hit or 2 a game. That's all we want from him, to be that consistent 300 average that he's so well and loved for. But then you get a Michael Conforto continuing to stay hot. Is Michael 3 for 4 on the day with 2 RBIs. You had Pete Alonso 1 for 5 on the day, but that one hit was massive. A 3 RBIs, bases clearing double. And I'm going to get into in a second why that was so important. Then you had Dom Smith 2 for 5 again, had a couple doubles on the day himself. Kevin Pillar, to all my Kevin Pillar haters out there that say, why isn't Almora starting? Why is this? Why is that? Look, Pillar had a terrible start to the season, but we also have to remember Pillar is an everyday player that for the first time in his career and quite a long time is coming off the bench. This is an adjustment. This is something that can very well cause struggles when you're first starting a season in a new type of role. But Pillar started a breakout big time, 1 for 3 for 5 on the day off of Zach Eflin, might I add, including 1 home run. It was this close to 2 home runs on the day, just 1 foul. And then you get on our other guy, Jonathan Villar. Villar has been sneaky good all year for the Mets. It was funny. A guy on Twitter yesterday told me, why is VR in there? You know, he sucks. And I said he's a bench player. You shouldn't expect him to be a star. That was it. But VR has been so clutch for the Mets. And every situation they basically put him in, he has had a good number on the Phillies. All of his main clutch hits and plays have come against the Phillies this season, not just in the series in Queens, but also now we're seeing here from last night's game. He was so smart. There was I believe it was a hit going right down the first baseline, and Rhys Hoskins was a little soft with the ball as VR went from second to third and the 8th, and VR realized that Hoskins wasn't noticing that he was in fact on third, so he bolted home and got there without even a throw, and that gave the Mets the tie at the time, and that was massive. So kudos to Jonathan VR and Kevin Pillar, 2 guys that are stepping up when they need him to, with guys like JD Davis and Brandon Nimmo not starting due to injury. And then when you get onto the pitching, David Pearson, another very serviceable game for him. He did not go deep in the game as I wouldn't expect, but in 4 innings gave up only 1 earned run, and that was fine. Miguel Castro, my guy, unfortunately did get worked quite a bit. Castro gave up 2 runs in 1 inning, and there was a fielding error on him, as we know. So not the best outing for Castro, but again, you're not going to be lights out every single time you're out there. And Castro's ate a bunch of innings to start the season. So I'm not going to hold it against him. He has right around a 3.6 ERA on the season now. But then you have Jacob Barnes comes in, gives you a serviceable inning that ends up getting him the win of the game. Trevor May continuing to look strong in May, gets another perfect inning for the Mets. And now we get to the 9th with the Mets having at least a 3-run lead, okay? And it was 8-5. You have 2 outs here, and you have a couple guys on for Rhys Hoskins. And this is where everything gets crazy, because talk about luck. Talk about how things change. All right, so Rhys Hoskins looks like he easily pulls a home run to the right side, opposite field. But then after they review it, he's, trying the bases. John Boy did a breakdown on his show. I'm sure you guys saw already. He does a great job doing that stuff. But he trots the bases. He states on second. He wants to know if it's going to be a double or a homer. The ump tells him, hey, no, it's a home run. Go trot the bases. He's pumped. Edwin Diaz looks like he blows the save for the Mets, and this game is tied 8-8. But no, they look back, and the last bar right before you get in the seats in the first row of right field, the ball actually hit the top metal bar and then bounced out. So by rule, it needs to clear that bar, and it did not. So the home run was taken away. Rhys was pissed, and boy, was that bittersweet knowing how Hoskins was so fumed in game 1 and has always been emotional with every team he plays, especially in the Mets. Dries Familia ends up coming in to get the final out on Bryce Harper, strikes him out, and Familia has been money. But Edwin Diaz, we're going to have a lot to say about Edwin, guys. Trust me. Okay, Diaz was a situation where I'm going to get into plenty, but the guy ended up getting hurt in this, so we have a lot to unfold. But in a nutshell, the Mets still win this one 8-7, and probably the most wacky, the most entertaining game the Mets have had all season long, with all the highs, all the lows, quite the roller coaster performance there by our Amazons. And when you also look at that Pete Alonso double, bases clearing, that was, of course, off of Jose Alvarado. So all the earned runs, once again, Alvarado. So a guy with all the karma bound to happen from game one. Boy, was that bittersweet for the Mets to get some calls in their favor and also to jump on Alvarado, show their emotions high, and thank Donnie Stevenson for the excellent work. So Mets go 5 for 15 on the day with runners in scoring position, left 12 on base. So definitely struggled quite a bit. Hit 17 times. They had 17 hits on the night, but only were able to manage 8 runs, which was still a lot, but you'd hope for maybe a little bit more. No less. The Mets get the win. Richie, what is your initial stance on all of this before we dive into the whole Edwin Diaz and Luis Rojas situation?
Yeah, that game last night was awesome, man. And the first thing I want to talk about is Jonathan VR, because that was one of the most impressive baseball plays I've seen in a long time, where my mouth's on the floor. Growing up playing baseball myself, my favorite part was running the bases, and that I was always aggressive that way. I love stealing. I love going home in that way. And I feel like it's such a lost art in today's baseball, where nobody really gets that aggressive. They don't really take advantage of if the fielder's falling asleep. And that's exactly what Jonathan VR did. He saw that they were falling asleep. They lobbed the ball, and he just steals home and slides in head first and was so energetic. My mouth was on the floor. Like, I was like, wow, like that is baseball. Like, I'm so happy he did that. That is such a lost art in today's MLB. And for Jonathan VR to do that and fire up the bench and just show like this is baseball. Like, it's more than just getting hits. It's more than just playing defense. Like, running the bases is such a big part. He's a former stolen base champion. So we know that he's fast. We know that he knows how to run the bases. And also, if you remember, he was dancing all over the place at first base before that. He was trying to steal second. He tried to get picked off like 7 times in a row because they knew that he is a threat at stealing the bases. So he deserves a lot of credit for that, because he's the one that tied the game in the first place. And nobody else on the Mets, or nobody else, I think, in the league would ever go home in that situation. Any other player on the Mets would have got the third. They would have looked and just stayed there. But he is a heads-up player. He's looking where the ball is. He saw that they were lazy, and he just sprinted home. And he deserves a lot of credit. That was definitely my favorite play of the season so far for me personally. I just love base running, and to have him off the bench, to be that he could be a pinch runner at times. And when he fills in that third base, he's playing solid defense. He's getting the clutch hits. So I love that energy from VR. And then when it comes to the Mets hitting last night, 17 hits, Pete Alonso with the base clearing double to score 3 guys was awesome to see. Michael Conforto with 3 hits of his own, Jeff McNeil getting hits, and Francisco Lindor flashing the lever at short, even though that he's struggling at the plate. I love that Lindor is still showing why he's getting paid a lot of money on the defensive side of things. Imagine how much of a nightmare it would be if he was not making any spectacular plays at short, if he was getting errors, and that would be a big nightmare. But at least that he's playing at an elite level at short, and I think his bat will come around. So overall, I felt like that game last night was the most entertaining one for sure of the year. It was the most nerve-wracking one for sure. And to have David Peterson strike out 5 straight batters, finish the night with 8 strikeouts, I feel like Peterson gets in a groove. He gave up a leadoff home run to McCutchen, and then he just settled down. He was looking very comfortable, just pumping in the strike zone, striking people out. And they did get his pitch count up high, but I love everything I saw from Peterson. And the bullpen was destined to give up runs eventually. And luckily, this offense scored 8 runs to give us that cushion, because if we lost that game last night, like if Hoskins did get that home run and he tied the game, that would have been crushing for the Mets. We know how important these divisional games are. I've said it over and over here on these streams that every single divisional game matters the most, because the last 6 years, the team in the NL East that had the best record in the division won the division. So the Mets take care of business against the Philadelphia Phillies, probably our biggest rival this season in terms of, the competition, and everyone is getting hot, the fight, everything about the Philadelphia Phillies. I want to take care of business. And that's exactly what we did. It's a great sign that this Mets team is getting contagious with the hits. Seeing Kevin Pillar pull a home run for his first home run as a New York Met to pull us within 1, and then VR is the one that scores a tying run. It just felt like it was a collective effort from top to bottom for the New York Mets offense, and it's very refreshing to see. And just a really good time, because right now we're going into May. This is a new month. So this is the time where the New York Mets can really show that this offense is really good. On paper, it's insane, but they're not performing. Last night, they showed their potential. 17 total hits. Are you kidding me? And that just tells you that this Mets team has a lot of talent from top to bottom. If Jeff McNeil continues this, if Conforto continues this, if Pete Alonso can drive in runs with men on base, if Dom Smith can get going, if Lindor can finally break out, which we have not seen from him yet, this offense is going to be better than we expect, especially with the performance from the starting pitching and the bullpen. This team is going to be better than we expect all throughout the season. And I know we're going to get into Diaz and the Rojas situation. That was definitely, when I saw Diaz start out there, I did not agree with it right away. I'm like, he's coming in a non-save situation. But hey, we're going to talk about that. And one thing I will say, I know majority of people, including myself, don't really like ESPN broadcasts, but last night I kind of enjoyed it because they gave a different perspective. They gave us an idea of why Lindor's struggling, like to hear A-Rod break him down, and he needs that, big moment. He compared it to Piazza. He got booed when he was in New York, and he never got booed in Texas and Seattle in his career, and then he was glorifying Michael Conforto. I just feel like that broadcast kind of made me respect them. I usually hate when the Mets are on ESPN, but I didn't mind it last night.
Interesting. I think that's a little bit of a hot take. Honestly, just because I'm like you. I think we can all agree. Most of us will probably say we didn't like ESPN's commentating yesterday, but I will agree with you in the sense of I do like when I hear individual players giving thorough player breakdowns as to why are they struggling or why are they thriving. I'm by all means not an A-Rod fan, as I don't think any of us are. I heard a lot of negativity, I felt like, and as they brought up DeGrom in that situation too. But I will say is that it wasn't their worst broadcast yesterday. So I will say that as a positive. But, it's perfectly fine to agree to disagree type thing. I'm just a purist. I think that's the best way to put it. When you have Gary, Keith, and Ron, you're kind of spoiled. So anything even remotely close under that, it's like, oh, okay, I can't even stand this. And that's how I've always kind of felt about
I agree.
it.
I'm like the biggest Gary, Keith, and Ron fan out there, but I just enjoyed the opposite perspective of giving us the view of how Lindor's struggling at the plate, what he needs to succeed, because he's been, I'm not an A-Rod fan at all, but he gave us a perspective of he went through the same thing Lindor went through, where he was in a market where he never got booed in his life, come to the Yankees, and then he's getting booed out of the stadium, and then he has a clutch moment, and then the Yankees fans win him over. So he just gave us a little hopeful perspective that when Lindor has his signature moment, that's when he's going to win over Mets fans, and that's when he's going to become an all-time great Met, is what we hope. That's the only reason why I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's a very fair point, obviously. And to expand a little bit on this series win for the Mets, I want to highlight, obviously, the 3 stars of the series, which is something that I think that we should definitely do for each series recap. And also I want to focus on the negatives too. We got to look at it both ways. So let's see. If you look at the Mets in this series in particular, they won 2-1, as we know. They score 14 runs to 13. So they only had one more run than the Phillies out of this entire series. And talk about the stereotypes of this season. And again, thank you all so much, everyone chiming in. Just some great people. See Julio, John, David, everyone, James. Thank you all so much, guys. I appreciate you. But if you look at the hits difference, listen to this, Richie. The Mets had 28 hits in this 3-game series to the Phillies 14. The Mets out-hit the Phillies every single game, even including the game 1 where they lost. It's crazy. Like, the Mets have been hitting basically every single game, even in their struggles, even when they've struck out a little bit more. Like the Red Sox series, they were definitely striking out at their highest rate by far. They've still been a lower team in the MLB, but right around 5th or top 10, at least, in a lack of strikeouts, which is great. But they haven't been able to put the ball outside the infield a lot of times, at least in clutch moments. So it's good to see that the hitting is continuing to thrive, where they're getting some more clutch hitting now. Now let's hope that this starts to become more of a trend. This was definitely, if there was any series in my mind to help the Mets finally get over this hump, it was an emotional one against the Phillies. And I think the Jose Alvarado situation is exactly what the Mets needed, because if we didn't have that happen prior already, with Taijuan Walker getting thrown out of the game and Rojas back against the Cubs because of poor umpiring and officiating, when was there going to be that spark? What was it going to take? What was it going to be? Well, in my mind, the Mets kind of proved that the Phillies definitely rubbed them the wrong way, and they took advantage of it in the end. Even though it wasn't perfect, it was a roller coaster of a series. They got the series win in the end, and that's all that matters. So now what I want to talk about, guys, is the Diaz and Rojas situation, as literally I see all of you guys asking about what is my stance on. Was it a good? Was it a bad thing on Rojas? Okay, so here's my initial stance on the matter. I see people that are complaining about Rojas not having Trevor May go back-to-back innings, the 8th and the 9th. I understand that. That's a fair argument, but do take into consideration that Trevor May, like Edwin Diaz, was coming off of back-to-back nights where he was pitching. So now you're going to push May in a situation that he has not done much at all season, having him go more than one inning. There are naturally some concerns there. I get it that he cruised in the 8th. I do, but still, this is a situation where I understood why they didn't have Trevor May in the 9th. But if you want to make that gripe, if you think that, he really would have been fine, then okay, that's perfectly fine. It's something that we'll never know. So it's something that we can definitely, bark on if we want. But now let's get on to Diaz here, because Diaz, like we all know by now, is not a guy that has necessarily been stellar, let alone in non-save situations, but also when he's going up against the Phillies. Diaz has had some pretty horrendous games against the Philadelphia Phillies in his career. He's also had some of the biggest bright spots. I've been at games in Philly before where Diaz has blown the save. It's not fun. He has not looked great. And if in my mind, this situation with Diaz, if you look back, it was probably smart not to put him in. And this is something that if we want to gripe Rojas on, we surely can. Luckily, the Mets did not lose this game, because if they did, everyone would be calling for Rojas's head more than usual, even though I already see a lot of people are like, why is this guy still managing? He's horrendous, this and that. Look, do I think Rojas is the best manager in the world? No, I don't even think he's anywhere close. But do I think he is nearly as bad as certain people make him out to be? No, I don't think he's nearly as bad. I think Rojas is a guy that has plenty of developing that he still needs to do. But I will agree for the most part that you could have made a fair argument not to have Diaz on back-to-back nights. I know that he rolled in Philly in game 2, but it is Philly. I get it. I do. He's been having the hot hand. But I will just add one more thing here before I let you take it away, Richie, and share your thoughts. Diaz has been lights out all season long. Outside of 2 outings that we can really think of, he has been money. He had a sub-2 ERA going into that game, and then ultimately, because of almost giving up the home run, gave up a couple runs, as we know, he is out of the game with back stiffness. So my natural concern isn't even so much with Diaz now, him coming in the game yesterday. It is the repercussions of it, not even the fact of him giving up the runs. I'm worried about his back stiffness. How serious is this? Because I know that the Mets have a lot of different closing options. You've got guys like Miguel Castro. You have, of course, Trevor May, Aaron Loop even. They have a plethora of guys that can close out games if need be. But Diaz is money. He's one of the best closers in baseball when he is rolling, and he's been. So I'm just naturally concerned on how serious is this going to be. I hope it's not anything crazy, because the Mets could really use him for at least a game or two in this upcoming series against the Cardinals. So with saying that, Richie, what is your stance on the matter? Do you think that it was a smart or not a smart move by Rojas and the Mets to bring in Diaz yesterday for the night?
Yeah, I disagreed with it right when I saw Diaz trotting out there in a non-save situation. I feel like Familia should have been the answer. And I don't understand why, but Diaz just does not perform when it's a non-save situation. When the save's on the line, he's lights out. I mean, look at Saturday night. We were up by 1 run in the bottom of the 9th, and he struck out 2 players, and he won us the game. 1, 2, 3 inning. Closed the door. I mean, we cannot forget about what Diaz did Saturday night, and he's 3 for 3 on saves this year. He's not blown a save yet. So to bring him in on a back-to-back when we're up by 4, I did not understand it. And fortunately for us, we won the game. But to bring in Diaz up 4, I feel like Familia should have been out there from the start, especially that we're going up against a tough Cardinals team. Now Diaz is not going to be available, and he's injured. So we don't even know what Diaz's back tightness is. Is it real? Is it going to be IL stint? Is it just a day-to-day type of thing? We don't know right now. So I definitely disagree with Rojas's decision. And luckily, Familia came in there with a very good hitter at the plate in Bryce Harper with a tying run on second base with 2 outs. And he struck him out with that nasty sinker. So kudos to Familia, because that easily could have been a walk-off home run. That easily could have been a tying RBI. And Familia got the job done. So Rojas, right when I saw Diaz come out there, I was like, why? He was amazing last night. But we have a tough Cardinals series up. We need him available every single game possible. There's no reason to bring in Diaz right now when we're in a non-save situation. That's really how I looked at it.
Yeah, and that's completely fair. If that was a tighter game, it would have made more sense to me. But basically, a couple of factors. 1, Diaz coming in a non-save was a huge no-no. 2, he doesn't have a great history against Philly, especially if it's off of back-to-back games, multiple games in a series at least. And 3, he ended up getting hurt in the end. So it was just a lot of negatives, unfortunately. But the Mets lucked out massively, not just because of the Hoskins. What looked like a short home run ended up being called back. But also Familia coming in against a Bryce Harper, who you can clearly tell Harper is not locked in yet. Harper is not 100% yet, coming off of getting drilled in the face with that 97 here in the series prior, against the Cardinals, no less, I believe, who the Mets are going to be playing tonight. So I want to say overall, this was a very entertaining series. This was a frustrating one. I have a lot of people, I see some people griping about McCann already, and I'm going to talk about McCann here in a second. So before we wrap up this series recap and get on to the series preview for the Cardinals, I just wanted to share my final thoughts on this series in a nutshell, the positives and the negatives. The three positives in my mind, let's go to the stars of the series, okay? And Richie, I'm going to ask for yours here in a second. My three stars of the series are kind of fairly easy to pick, but I have Mr. Pete Alonso as one of the 3 stars. He went for 4 for 13 in the series, including 4 RBIs. Pete has continued to not necessarily been getting a hit every at bat. We know that he'll strike out a little bit, but he's taking good pitches. He's getting better with his situational hitting. He had a solid series overall, coming off of really his worst series of the season. I think we could agree, against the Red Sox. Michael Conforto is one of my stars as well. Michael, that's kind of an easy pick, was 5 for 10, batted 500 in the series, including 5 RBIs and a home run. And then my third and last star, and you can pick a lot of these guys. I was even debating with some guys like a Pilar VR just because how clutch they were in their game. But I went with Dom Smith because I saw a gradual trend in Dom Smith's game in this series, which has me excited for what he could do against the Cardinals starting tonight. Went 5 for 13, including 1 RBI, but had a couple key leadoff doubles here or there, or just getting things started in the inning. So I liked what I saw. The extra base hits were up, and those are my 3 stars. So Richie, what are your 3 stars of the week? Or the series, pardon me.
Yeah, 2 of them are the same. Definitely Conforto and Pete. Conforto is, when he's hot, he is hot, man. Like, you can tell when he's seeing the ball right and his timing is there. Mike Conforto is going to drill the ball the opposite way. He's going to pull home runs. He's going to be clutch. And that's what we know about Conforto is when he's cold, and he can't get a hit for the life of him. But when he's hot, he is going to give you guys consistent hitting, and that's what we're seeing. And then Pete Alonso has to be the second one for me as well, simply because of the situational hitting, to the ability to drive in 3 RBI last night with the bases loaded is huge for Pete, because he was not going for the fences, and that's awesome. And that reminded me of 2019 rookie Pete Alonso drilling into the right center field, into the gap, and his energy on second base, his celebration, everything about Pete Alonso deserves the recognition of a star. And then lastly, I want to give the nod to Jeff McNeil. Jeff McNeil is doing really good in the field and at the plate. Jeff McNeil's, that one play, was it last night when, it was,
the double play? Oh my God.
Bohm hit a rocket up the middle. I thought he caught it initially, but he dropped it, didn't panic, flipped it up to Lindor, turned the double play. That was insane. He got a lot of great diving stops at second base all throughout the series, and he had multiple hits. Do you know how many hits in total, or what do you want for the series?
He was 4 for 6 yesterday, so he just blew up.
Yeah, last night was 4 for 6, and we know he's a contact hitter, and that's what I think he needs to become. I felt like all throughout the beginning of the year, he was swinging for the fences. He would pop up a lot because he's just putting too much into his swing. He's not letting the pitch come to him, and we know what Jeff McNeil's best at. He slaps those base hits, and I like him in the top of the lineup. I would love for him to lead off when Nimmo's out. I would also love for him to bat 2 or 3. I think he's a guy, when he's hot, needs to be in the top of the lineup because he gets on base a ton. And I love that we saw Jeff McNeil flash the glove in the infield and at the plate, because we know that defense is a big problem with this team because it's very inconsistent. Some days we're just one of the best defensive teams in the league, and the other day we literally look like the worst defense in the league. So you got to give McNeil credit on the defense, because people are, very skeptical when it comes to McNeil defensively. He's not consistent, but when he's playing well, you got to give him the recognition.
I agree with you. McNeil was a great pick. He was guys debating too. I was like, you know what? McNeil continues to be consistent in this upcoming series, then he'll be another 3-star for me, I'm sure. But now the last statement I want to make about this series recap before we talk about the Cardinals is the guy we always talk about, Francisco Lindor. And unfortunately, this isn't as much of a positive as it is a negative. I know a lot of you guys probably have some colorful stances on Lindor currently. I see a lot of people making stances that just blow my mind still, because again, while he has been struggling plenty, it is nothing that I think is an end-all situation. I do think Lindor is going to be fine, but we are now over a month into the season as we have hit May, and Lindor has really had a terrible month. There's no other way to put it. When you look at his numbers on the season now, Richie, bear with me, an 82 at-bats in 22 games played this season. He's played in every single game. He has a 171 batting average, just over 500 OPS. He has 0 hits in the series against the Phillies. He left more guys on base than I can begin to tell you, and he's only had 3 hits in the past 7 games. So I'm going to ask your stance on this in a second, but here's my breakdown on Francisco Lindor and his struggles. So Lindor, there are a lot of factors that have gone in, and we have made a lot of statements on the Lindor situation, on why is he struggling. Is it just the NL factor? Yes, I do think the adjustment to the NL is still very much a factor. I do think that him coming off of this big contract with big expectations is factoring in as well. I think everything combined is naturally going in to Lindor's struggles, even with the slow start of the season between the team and the lack of games. But now it's hard for me personally to justify too much Lindor outside of him just struggling and trying to get adjusted. And I think he needs to work on his stance. When you look at the at-bats he's taking, you can clearly tell he is not locked in at all at the plate. He's a guy that is swinging at pitches that he kind of shouldn't be swinging at times, and he's also taking pitches that he probably shouldn't be taking. He's still getting on base. He's still gained his decent amount of walks and things like that. He has a good eye at the plate, don't get me wrong, but to see him struggling this much, and at this point, if you would have told me that Francisco Lindor a month into the season would be the worst hitter statistically for the Mets, I would have said, like I normally do, I have a bridge to sell you. But that unfortunately is the case right now for Lindor. So Richie, what's your stance on Francisco? Again, to say I'm not concerned, I'm just frustrated at this point because I know he's frustrated. And this really is nothing more than a minds game because as we alluded to earlier, it's not like the guy can't field. He has been stellar. He has prohibited further runs coming in for the Mets that could have really made games blow up in their faces bigger than what they could have. He's helped out the pitching staff. He's been a star in the field, definitely looking like a gold glover out there, but he just has not had the bat. And again, also one more thing, I'm aware that he struggled in 2020, but I know the factors of 2020 as well, guys. Main thing was a couple of things. 1, pandemic season. A lot of guys factor into that, not just Lindor, but 2, he also had a lack of motivation going to the game every single day, knowing his future was very uncertain and not looking likely with Cleveland. I understand that's not necessarily a great move by a pro by any stretch of the imagination, but my point is I understand why he struggled. It would be better me understanding than not, but it's been a trend now for a bit. So what's your stance on Lindor, and how much longer do you think it's going to take him to kind of be in this slump and get out of it and show that he is very much one of the better hitters in baseball? There's really no doubting that. The numbers will back it if you go back throughout his career.
Yeah, I think it's a big test for him mentally. The New York is a different animal, and I think he knew that going into it, but he didn't expect it to be this crazy. And yes, there's adjustment between going to the AL and NL. He's not used to all these pitchers. He's not used to the New York City market. He's not used to the teammates. He's not used to the opponent. So there's an adjustment factor, and it's just unfortunate for him because the game of baseball, there's slumps. It's introductory press. It's just like first time, showing the Mets of what type of player he is, and he's struggling right now. Do I think this will continue throughout the year? Absolutely not. I think that the problem with him right now is he is inside of his head. He is thinking too much. He's not playing the game. He's worrying about getting the hit so he can break out of the slump, and he's not getting to his roots. He's not getting to his instinctual ability to drive the ball to the opposite field, pull home runs, get on base, and his mechanics is off. And when you're getting in your own head and you're thinking too much and not playing with instincts, you're not going to play well in any sport. So I feel like he needs to find himself, and when he gets that signature moment, when he gets that ability to, driving a lot of guys in the clutch, like last night, he had 2 opportunities to have that moment, and unfortunately, he didn't capitalize. And you got to, bring that up. He's hitting soft grounders. He's popping the ball up. He's striking out, and he's taking lazy swings. And that's what I've noticed from Lindor. So I don't think that we're going to see the same Lindor throughout the rest of the season at all. But I feel like Lindor, the problem with him is mentally. I think that he's like overthinking everything. He's frustrated with himself. He's not used to being booed, and it's not sitting with him right now. And he's never been booed in his life. So this is the big test for him mentally. Are you meant for New York? Because you're going to be here for 11 years. So if you can get out of this and prove to Mets fans why we gave you this contract at the plate, because we know he's worth all the money defensively. We can all agree on that. And we're lucky that he's playing that well, because if he wasn't, then it would be a really big nightmare. But Lindor, I think this month of May, he needs to gradually get more consistent. And I feel like when he has that moment in the 8th or 9th inning with men on base and he hits a clutch home run or gets a clutch extra base hit, we're all going to forget about it. And if you listen to Pete Alonso last night, obviously he's going to defend him because he's his teammate. But Pete said, hey, in September, we're all going to look back and say, wow, I can't believe people were worried about Lindor, and look at his numbers and say, holy crap, look at those numbers. And yeah, some people say he hasn't been a consistent hitter since August of 2019. But if you look back at Francisco Lindor, he was top tier for 6 straight years for the Cleveland Indians. He has the most home runs by any shortstop ever in the span of 6 years, in the last 6 years, rather. So he's a generational talent in the field. He's a generational talent at the plate. It's just a matter of time. The problem is his head. And when he gets through that mental struggle and he gets that adjustment past him, I think this is the month where he needs to gradually get more comfortable. And then June, I predict, is where he really gets red hot. And I think May is where he's going to get, he's going to struggle a little bit this week, I think. I don't think he's going to break out of the water like Conforto is. But I think he's gradually going to get on base. I think he's going to get an extra base hit this series and a couple RBI. But he just needs to get confidence within himself and stop thinking and stop over analyzing everything and get back to his roots and, just play the game and don't think.
Exactly. Yeah, no, those are great points, Richie. I agree with you because, again, a lot of factors are going in, and we need to realize that at the end of the day, okay, that yes, it is definitely alarming to have Lindor be the worst hitter statistically for the Mets to start the season, but is this an end-all situation? Was the contract something that we should be regretting 20 games in? Hell no. I'm sorry, but if you're a fan and you're really feeling like that this soon in a one season of 162 where we have 140 or so games left out of 11 more years on this contract, you have bigger problems, my friend. Trust me. Again, I know we're frustrated. It's perfectly fine to voice those frustrations and have your early doubts, but let's just let time continue to pass by because, in the end, only time will be able to fix this situation or further prove your statements and saying that he is, in fact, not going to be anything special, a star for the Mets. So that is my stance on it. And again, I appreciate that. I appreciate all my Mets and baseball fans chiming in, guys. Card Coach, a great member here on the channel. What's up, buddy? I actually just showed the card to everyone regarding Conforto. I know I haven't talked to you in a while. Thank you so much again. Guys, give a huge shout out to my man Card Coach if you haven't. He's a great member here on the channel, but he is the one that sent me that awesome Conforto card. Was it over the past month already? It's been a little bit. So again, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for those brownies. Those were awesome too. Yeah, really, really delicious. But again, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you tremendously. So yeah, that's really all I have to say on the matter. And with saying that, now is a great segue over the next 10 minutes because I know Richie has to head out soon before we do our caller Q&A. Let's preview this series against the Cardinals, shall we? Because this is going to be a massive one. It's a 4-game set, okay? The Mets have the chance to tie the series or win the series. If they lose the series, I think that is a big no-no. Obviously, we want this team to win every single game. So that is my stance on it from a nutshell. But Richie, let's take a look here. The Cardinals are 16-12 on the season. 4 games above 500. They're having a very strong start to the season. Definitely playing a little bit better than expected in certain rights. The rotation has been a little bit better than expected, I would say, for them. The bullpen, they have some hot arms that I'm going to talk about here shortly. But in a nutshell, they're coming off of a great series where they sweep and really dominate the Pirates, as they should. The Pirates are a team that should not be going anywhere this season, and they're going to eat up on those lesser teams in the division all year long. But they win that series 3-0. And now when you look at the matchup starting tonight, it is going to probably be more than likely Joey Lucchesi starting against Adam Wainwright. Now, maybe that is going to be subject to change. Maybe it's going to be a straight bullpen game, but it does look like, as of now, Lucchesi will have to start against Adam Wainwright, the longtime Cardinal that we know far too well. He's 0-for-3 on the season thus far with a 4-year ERA. Then game 2 tomorrow, it's going to be Jacob deGrom to go on the mound against Kim, the southpaw, who's 1-0 on the season with a 3.29 ERA. Then the third game against the Cardinals, it is going to be Marcus Stroman, assuming he's healthy and back from his hamstring tightness, facing off against Gantz, who's 2-2 on the season with just over a 2-year ERA, having a really strong start. And then to finish the series, this one will be a tough one as well. It's going to be Taijuan Walker back on the bump against Jack Flaherty, who is the Cardinals' ace. He has had not the most stellar start to the season, but this team likes to win whenever he's on the mound. He's 5-0 to start the season with a 3.41 ERA. So before I get into individual players some more, what is your initial stance on this series against the Cardinals?
Cardinals are 16-12. They're going to be 16-16 at the end of the series. Enough said. They're going to go back to 500.
The confidence is high. I love it.
Yeah, man, we're about to go crazy in the month of May. But yeah, it's going to be a big test for us. I love that it's a 4-game series because if we can win this and get 3 Ws on the road in St. Louis, it would be a really good momentum builder for the New York Mets. And I just love that we're going up against top tier competition. And the Cardinals, they're coming off just dominant performance over Pittsburgh. And that's a team that they're supposed to dominate against. Like you said, they're a really bad ball club. But tonight's a big test. Joey Lucchesi got rattled in his last start. And hopefully that he can, at least give up minimum 3 or 4 runs. And I think this is the offensive series for the Mets consistently, because we saw them break out in the series against the Phillies, but not the entire series. So if the Mets can put up 4 or 5 runs per game, I think we have an opportunity to win 3 out of the 4 games. And that's saying that with confidence. I believe this pitching staff. I believe the bullpen to get the job done. I think what we need to do is continuing to, string those hits together, channel their inner Donnie Stevenson, whatever the case may be, to get these scores, the runs on the board, whether it's John VR getting on base and stealing home and having crazy aggressive base running, whether that's the good defense up the middle with Lindor, McNeil. I just feel like they need to have McNeil, Conforto, and Alonso. Those 3 guys, those are the 3 stars of last series. Can they continue it? Can we start getting consistent? Are we going to see Michael Conforto have a consistent series? Is this about to be a stretch of a really good month, or is it going to go back and he's going to go into a slump? Those are things we have to look out for. I think the biggest X factor for this series is the score runs, because that's been the narrative all throughout the season for the Mets. Is they blow up one game, they score 8 runs, and the next game they score 0. And then they score 1, 2, 2, and then 0, and then 9, and then 1. So let's, get confidence at the plate. Hitting is contagious. So hopefully from the top to bottom, we can see a consistent performance from the Mets at the plate.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And it's something that the consistency needs to come. It's a question of, was this Phillies series enough of a spark to initiate that? I do think so. I honestly do. You can tell that this team is starting to feel different now. I'm seeing the smiles. I'm seeing the confidence. And at the end of the day, as we were talking about Lindor plenty, when you have Lindor as your worst hitter on the team, that's honestly not a bad thing. Knowing the potential there and what he's going to bring to this team sooner rather than later, I'd imagine at the plate that he's already bringing with the gloves. So I agree with you. 3 out of 4 would be fantastic. It will not be an easy task, however, because again, when you look at this series, a 4-game set, in my mind, this is going to be the toughest series for the Mets to start the season from a pitching perspective. This rotation, if you're looking at by the numbers, don't get me wrong, it's not the best in baseball, but to start the season, it has been very good, has been very solid, one of the better ones actually to start. So the Mets are not going to have the luxury like they've had in plenty previous series where they've had by far the better pitching matchup. No, that's not the case here. Outside of Jacob deGrom on the mound, these games can really go either way from a rotation perspective, and now it's going to be a tall task for the Mets. They're starting to heat up. Will they be able to do that against a Cardinals team that has been fairly hot themselves? And now, as we kind of wrap up here this preview talk, before I let you go, Richie, I want to add in a couple more things. There are 3 players that stand out to me in this series, and I actually changed that by accident, guys. We're not doing the callers just yet. My apologies. That was an accident. We will as soon as this preview is done. But a couple guys I did want to mention to keep an eye out from the Mets perspective, where they definitely could be a big problem, is one, Tommy Edman, the second baseman, young player for the Cardinals, has had a great start to the season, is batting .287 with his average, has 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and 4 stolen bases. So he's a speedy guy on the bags and is a guy that's overall a strong multiple tool player for the Cardinals. Carlson's another one as an honorable mention. They're rookie. He's had a good start. But Arenado is another guy that obviously we have to look at for sure. Arenado, we all were hoping would possibly become a Met in the offseason. That didn't happen. It didn't look like that he actually wanted to come here. There were reports indicating that he was not willing to waive his no trade or no move clause in doing so. So if that is the case, then okay, Arenado, hopefully the Mets don't let him get too high in this series, but he's had a really strong start to the year. Batting just under 270, has 4 home runs, 18 RBIs, and has a just under 800 OPS. So Arenado, the glove. It's arguably the best in baseball there at third. Not even really. And you have a very strong bat behind it. And then you also, Paul DeJong, in my mind, is the third guy the Mets need to be keeping an eye out for. He's batting a cool 172, the shortstop, but he has 6 home runs, 13 RBIs. And every single time I watch the Mets versus the Cardinals, Paul DeJong usually has their number. So he is my third pick. The average isn't there, but this guy normally does really, really well against the Mets. So those are my 3 picks. And with saying that, Richie, do you have any final stances you'd like to give on this series before I let you get out of here today?
Yeah, it's going to be a big test for the Mets. I think that luckily for us, the series that we struggled the most this year We got swept from the Cubs and we got swept from the Red Sox. Luckily, those were not divisional opponents. That's a very good thing. We have to realize that, because if you get swept from a divisional opponent, that's not going to be good at the end of the year. So it's good that we're taking care of the divisional guys like the Phillies, and now we're going up against another non-divisional opponent, and we've struggled against them all throughout the season. So can this be the final time where we can at least split it 2-2? That's what we can hope for. I think that's the most realistic approach. Can we please score runs for Jake and give him bullpen support? Please give him a win. I don't want him to, he does not deserve another loss for the rest of the year. I know that's a stretch, but it shouldn't be a stretch. I mean, look at his ERA. This man needs a W. He needs to be 3-2. So if we're not going to hit tonight, then hit Tuesday, please. That's all I got to say about that, because I cannot sit here and watch Jacob deGrom pitch a gem and for it to get wasted anymore. It makes me sick inside, but I have a good feeling this offense is going to break out, and the New York Mets are going to win at least 2 of these 4 games and stay on a roll. I think this is a really good month for us to get consistent, and then when the summer hits, I think that's when we're going to just take off.
Yeah, man, I agree. As the weather gets warmer, I think so will the Mets' chances on being more consistent on a nightly basis. But Richie, thank you so much for chiming in, my man. I know you got to get out of here. So guys, Richie's going to be heading out here in a quick second. But before he gets out of here, and I share my final stances on this preview, and then we'll get into a live caller Q&A for the last 20 minutes to a half an hour here in the stream. Guys, please make sure to subscribe to my man Richie at Mets Media. If you haven't already, make sure to check out not just his Mets channel, but if you're a Jets and a Knicks fan, he has separate channels for them as well. Knicks won last night. Jets had a strong draft in my mind. A lot of things to be positive about with all those 3 teams respectively. And Richie, just thank you so much for chiming in, my man. I look forward to talking to you throughout the Cardinals series and then leading up to our next Mets talk, my man.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to be on here, the weekly segment. I look forward to it every week, recapping each series, previewing the next. I love talking to my Mets. And guys, I appreciate all the support on all throughout my channels on the Mets, Knicks, Jets. It really means a lot to me. And even if you're not a Knicks fan or not a Jets fan, I do have a lot of NBA and NFL fans tuning in to show support. So guys, I appreciate that a lot. Let's go Mets, and let's get the series dub against St. Louis.
Absolutely,
Richie.
Tyler. Have a good night, my man. I'll talk to you later.
Peace out.
All right, guys, so Richie is out, but before we finish this up, I just want to give one final stance here on the entire Cardinals series upcoming, and that is 3 relievers in particular I want to touch on, and then from there, we're going to get into our live caller segment where you guys will be able to chime in the stream. I'll have a stream link available shortly in the chat. You can come in, just share your thoughts, give a one question and or comment about the Mets and the series in particular. Let's keep it focused on what the topic is. So let's talk about the Mets in particular and what's going on with them in this Cardinals series. So if you have any questions or anything like that, by all means, fire away here shortly. But my final stance on this Cardinals series and a preview of it is 3 relievers in particular that have definitely been helping the Cardinals win some games. And that is starting off with their southpaw, and Cabrera has a 3.55 ERA and has 14 Ks over 12. That's really solid. Then you get on to their other reliever and right-hander, Gallegos, who has a 2.3 ERA. He's been one of the better relievers in all of baseball as of now, and he has 21 Ks over just 15 innings. He's looked strong. And then you also have another right-hand reliever, and Reyes has 0 earned runs he has given up in 13 appearances, including 15 strikeouts. So he has been money. That's the 3-head monster, really. Jordan Hicks, who normally has the flame throwing to really close out games, has had a so-so start to the year. But in all, they have plenty of strong arms. It's just a matter of being consistent with them. But again, Hicks is a guy that I think as the year goes on and gets more acclimated coming off of his big injuries, because this is the first time he's pitching in 2 years, really. I think he'll be just fine. So we'll see how he does in this season, and we'll see how the Mets do in this series. So that's going to be the recap and the preview here. Now let's get on to our live caller Q&A, folks. So I'm going to be sending that here in the stream in just 1 second. So if you guys want to chime in, give a question or a comment, by all means, that's fine. Just let's make it fairly short, because I'm sure there's going to be multiple people, and I don't want to give one person far more time than the other. I want to try to make things pretty even-keeled. So bear with me 1 second, guys, as I get the link in, and we'll be doing that right now. And if you haven't already, please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. It really does mean a lot, guys. Help us get to 100 likes by the end of the stream, and help us get to 7K subs if you enjoy consistent Mets content like this. So call in to the stream here. There you go. All right, guys. So now we're going to be having callers available. So if you do, in fact, want to chime in, share your thoughts, by all means, please, please, please go for it. I'm looking forward to talking to some of you guys and hearing your stances. And before we go further with anything like that, I want to share one final thing here on the matter, and that is regarding, yes, the Tumbler. So if you guys don't know, we are doing a Tumbler giveaway here on WardyNYM. So all you have to do to enter this Tumbler giveaway, if you haven't, guys, is to just go on my channel. There is a pinned video, and today is the last day you can enter. All you have to do is check out the video. I'll be giving away this Tumbler, and I'll be picking a winner tomorrow, right in the beginning of the series between the second game of DeGrom on the mound against the Cardinals. If you want this custom Tumbler, all you got to do is, in fact, put a baseball emoji in the comments of that video that I have on the channel, and tonight will be the last night to actually enter that. That's all you got to do. And guys, if you haven't already, and if you would like to donate at all in the streams today, today's probably the last day too. Any people that donate get a higher chance, get multiple entries into the giveaway, and then the winner will be announced tomorrow. So again, I see we have a couple people lined up. Just give me 1 second, guys, and then we will get rolling. Really, really excited for this one. All right, guys, bear with me 1 second. I just have to go away for a hot second, then we're going to get rolling. So just give me 1 second, guys. When I put on, yeah, that's it. Just give me 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, guys, and we're back. So now we're going to be starting to take callers. So again, guys, if you'd like to join the stream, share a comment or two, all you have to do is simply click on the link that I have available in the stream, and I'm going to pin that now. So if you guys haven't seen it already, you can gladly pin it, and then we're going to get rolling. Oh, what's up, my man? Guys, shout out to my man John at Hot Take Hockey. If you're a big hockey fan, please make sure to check out his channel. He does a lot of great coverage on all things NHL. What's up, my man? Thanks so much for chiming in. So we're going to get into our first caller here momentarily, guys. So there we go. And I think we're all set. So David, my friend, thanks so much for chiming in, buddy. What question or statement do you have regarding the New York Mets and maybe in this Cardinals series in particular?
Hey, Tyler. Thanks for taking my call. Appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. Great stream as always.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it really much with Richie and you guys and you, and it was really great. It was a good in-depth into the last series and the preview for this series. And hopefully, we'll have a great series with the Cardinals. Just a quick my thoughts on the previous series. It was, wow, that was an epic series.
Yes.
The Mets, sometimes they take years off your life, So Villar, he's an interesting character. He's an interesting character because before he made that great run to home, the great base running, I think it was the inning before or 2 innings before. I mean, he swung at three pitches way out of the strike zone. I don't know if you remember that
Yes.
at bat. And I'm like, what is this guy doing? I mean, and the funny thing was the pitcher was throwing it higher and higher and higher, and he kept swinging at it. I'm like, what? And then we see what he did the next time around, the base run. I was like, man, this guy, he's crazy. Because he does things is like, I guess he plays, according to what, according to the moment. But I have actually a question for you according to what with Edwin Diaz.
Sure.
Do you think that he went into that 9th inning with that back stiffness already in play, or did that happen during the pitching? Because it was a bit weird that, I mean, he was all over the place with the first at bat. His pitching wasn't even close to the strike zone. And to me, I was like, man, there's something off with him. It's like he just wasn't like he's in his usual form. So it seemed like he was off. And when I was listening to the conference, the post game, I noticed, I believe, who was it, Rojas, that said that when the pitching coach came out after Hoskins hit that, it was believed to be a home run. He wasn't aware, the pitching coach, about the problem that he had in his back, but it seemed like he wanted to stay in the game with that problem. So my question to you was, do you think that when he began that inning, he already had that problem, and that was the reason why it contributed to his bad performance, or did it actually occur during the game? And if it occurred before it, then I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt on that one, even though he should have said something before.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And David, thank you so much for chiming in, my friend. He's chimed in a couple times. Really appreciate you, buddy. And to answer that question, yeah, it's one of those things where part of me, maybe you could feel like maybe he had some stiffness going into that game. It very well is possible. Now, whether or not that was for certain what was happening, I can't give you that answer. I really can't. Diaz is a guy that we have seen on occasions in back-to-back nights where one night he looks stellar, the other night he's kind of all over the place, but that is a rational way of going about things to an extent where maybe he was dealing with some stiffness, but wanted to work through it because he felt like he was going to be okay. Maybe he didn't even say anything to the team regarding that. I'm not sure, but again, it is a fair question to be asked. I unfortunately don't have a solid answer for you, only because of the fact that I just simply don't know. That's really it. It's all just assumption, but it is a fair comment to make, knowing that Diaz did really look a little wild there, and did not look very Diaz-ish that we've seen in the past. And I get it. It was back-to-back in a non-safe situation. Those were probably the main factors that went into it, but it's a fair question. And my apologies. I just don't have a sold one way or the other because I like you, I honestly don't know. That's just all assumption right now. But overall, David, thank you so much for chiming in, my man. We have plenty of other people that have some things to say, so I'm going to get them all in here. We have 4 more people as of now lined up. So again, guys, if you'd like to chime in at some point during the stream before we get out of here, you surely can. We'll probably be going, I'd say, until 3 p.m. Eastern time. So another 20 minutes or so to share a stance or a comment. So we got Big Joe in here. What is up, my man? Thank you so much for chiming in. What is your stance or comment that you have regarding our New York Mets? You there, Joe? Okay, I think we may have some technical difficulties with Joe, so I'm going to come back to him. No problem. We'll get on to Christopher next. Christopher, do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, what's up, Chris? How's it going, buddy?
I'm good so far. So one of my statements is we have to stop like going into our next Philly series. We have to stop Rhys Hoskins because he's been killing us for when he's against the Mets this year. He's been killing us.
Yeah.
Also, yeah. So when Edwin Diaz first came up to pitch, I thought he walked Didi like on purpose because he just hit a 3-run shot to put us up by 2. But then after that, he threw he would keep throwing out of the strike zone, wild pitches, and then that's when I knew, there's obviously something wrong. And I don't know why our manager didn't take him out earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why our manager didn't do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's great stuff. Again, I appreciate you chiming in, Chris. So in a nutshell, yeah, I addressed that plenty on why did Rojas do what he did. Who was at fault more? Was it because of Rojas just not making the right decision? Was it the Diaz side of things? Look, that's another one where we all kind of have our personal opinions on. I shared about them plenty, but again, Chris, I appreciate you chiming in, buddy. I hope you have a great day to all my Mets fans that have been chiming in. But yeah, so on the Diaz front, in a nutshell, I think you can make a really good argument to not even have Diaz in the game yesterday. You can make somewhat of an argument to have him in, knowing how much he's been rolling. But yeah, again, the hot topic has kind of been Edwin Diaz and Luis Rojas and what has been going on with him. So I understand that. Good comments as always, my man. Now we have another guy chiming in. Prime, what's up, my man? How's it going?
What's up, guys? How you doing, Tyler?
Good. Do you have any questions or comments in particular you'd like to make?
So I really haven't been following the Cardinals this year. I've really been only following the Mets, school and stuff. But how has Wainwright been doing? Because I know he's obviously infamous for us, for our fan base back in 2006.
Yeah.
I'm giving everybody PTSD from that. But how has he been doing this year? I'm wondering, like, what are your stances on how do you think, do you think we'll score a lot tonight, or do you think it would be more of like how it was more of like a lower run, like maybe 4 runs most? Like, how do you think we'll stack up tonight?
Well, that's a great question here. So I'm going to help answer that in 1 second, because when you look at Wainwright by the numbers, he has just a 4 ERA. He has yet to record a win yet this season. Wainwright, if you guys don't know, he's almost 40 years old already. He's 39. He's kind of in the twilight of his career. It took him a while to stay with the Cardinals in the offseason to just sign on an extension deal. So in my personal opinion, I do think that this is definitely a game the Mets can jump on, basically. So that's my stance on it. I think this, like many games, is very winnable. I honestly think that Wainwright should, when you look at them from a strict numbers perspective, now the flow of the season has been, I think Wainwright is probably the least of the Mets' worries to an extent, who they're facing throughout this rotation. So that is kind of my stance on it, Prime. But again, I appreciate you chiming in, my man. I hope you have a great day. And do you have any final comments or questions before I get you out of here?
Yeah, like I was looking at his stats, his last 3. He's gone against he's had 3 straight NL starts. He's gone against the Phillies, which is a complete game.
Yeah.
But he had a 7 hit, 4 run, 5 inning performance on the 14th against the Nationals. I would say is his worst out of his last 3, but last 2 starts have been pretty consistent. So I think it's going to be a more pitcher's role tonight.
Yeah. No, again, that definitely could come to fruition. I remember that game. I was watching parts of that Nats game too. My brother was at that, where the Mets just not the Mets, the Nationals just blew them up. But again, I appreciate you chiming in, Prime. So yeah, in a nutshell, my final stance on the matter is Wainwright has always had a good career against the Mets, as we know, for worse reasons than better, unfortunately. But I will say that when you look at the numbers again and you look at the trends currently, he is beatable like anyone else. He has yet to record a win this season. I know wins don't really matter too much, because if we're worrying about wins, then we might as well focus on Jacob deGrom, right? And that's a story for another day. But again, the Mets definitely are going to have some work. My biggest concern for tonight's game, honestly, isn't even as much Wainwright to an extent as is just the natural travel going from Philly now to St. Louis. How are they going to fare in St. Louis with the Cardinals coming off of a really hot series too? So I think from a defensive standpoint, the Cardinals have a lot of good players, as we know. Nolan Arenado at third. Quite the difference from the Mets side of things. So I think defense will be a key in this series for sure, and just more situational hitting. If you don't jump on Wainwright, are you able to jump on him maybe in the 5th or the 6th towards the end, maybe the 2nd or 3rd go around in the order? That's a question that we have yet to find out. But like anything else, I of course like the Mets' chances going up against him. And now we have another person in here. What's up? Did I try to get you in here earlier, Joseph, or are you still in here?
Yeah, I'm in here. I'm here.
Okay. What's up, Joseph? How's it going? Yeah, I think you might have had technical difficulties earlier.
Hey, man.
What comments or
no
questions
worries.
do you have?
So my fiance, yeah, sure. So my fiance and my buddy, we were all at the game on Friday night. We got really heckled.
Yes.
It was pretty bad. We were sitting like first row. We really didn't have a really good time, until I would say, 4-4, they tied it. And I was like, oh man, here we go again. We're going to blow it. And, the minute that Conforto hit that home run, I was so happy when that splitter just hung. I mean, honestly, like last night, we showed a lot of perseverance. Hoskins, I watched Broads, actually, Sports Broads. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's actually really funny to watch on YouTube. But I really liked watching him lay into Hoskins. I think, Hoskins, he's a great player, but I think that, that's a baseball play where you think that you're just going to throw it to the pitcher and they're just not going to run, like the play's over. Honestly, VR, such a good heads up base running right there. Amazing. I don't agree with Rojas putting in Diaz. I think that Diaz doesn't belong in that game. You put Trevor May, you put Barnes in. You really don't want to put your closer in that position. I just have to say, number one, also, I was happy that Alvarado got his fine and suspension. I think that the guy is a true head case, and he really didn't belong going after Dom Smith like that. I mean, I have respect for Dom to say that he wasn't going to beat him up unless he was in the tunnel. Um, but I just have to say that I'm glad that we're out of Philadelphia. And I guess I
Agreed.
just want to ask you, do you think tonight that we have a successful inning against, Adam Wainwright? Like, are we going to string together a couple hits, or are we just going to go and look at the curveball like Beltran did in the, that '07 series? Unfortunately, he dropped the curveball at Shea Stadium, as everyone knows. I know we don't like to talk about that, but
Yeah.
I guess you're thinking, that we're gonna eventually move into, I guess, some territory where we can put together. Also, is that hitting coach a lie? Is that hitting coach real, or are they just? Is it funny? Is it just funny that Donnie Sutton actually real? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know these
All
things.
right.
So
Perfect. All right. Well, Joseph, I appreciate you, my man. I'm sorry about Philly.
man.
I really am, but I've been there too. I know what it's like, and I'll expand on that here in a second. So have a great day, my man, and let's go Mets. And to answer Joseph's statements, well, first of all, yeah, I've been in Philly more than anything for games. I've been heckled more than I can even begin to tell you. It's something I'm used to. If you're, say, a guy that doesn't go to Philly all that often, though, could be a little bit up front in your face at first, but again, it also goes with how the team's performing. So thank you so much for chiming in, my man. So to answer your questions regarding how are the Mets going to do against Wainwright again further, my personal stance on the matter is the Mets have been able to make some things happen in earlier innings the past couple games. Now, will they continue that trend or not? Something tells me that they might not jump on Wainwright early tonight as much as I would like them to. If I'm just going to stick with the safe route, I think if the Mets do in fact get on Wainwright, it might not be for until, say, at least the third inning, the first couple innings. It's really going to depend on how Nimmo does, because Nimmo's been definitely slow. Nimmo should be starting today, but he's been slow dealing with the finger and the hip. Lindor needs to break out at some point. When is that going to be, though, right? So it's one of those things where if I had to just put money on it, which I'm definitely not, because this is all kind of just my assumption and sharing our personal stance, I think that the Mets won't jump on Wainwright until a couple innings in the game, but I hopefully am proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. So that's kind of my stance on the matter. And to expand further, no, Donnie Stevenson, I am not under the belief is an actual person, but it is a great thing what the Mets are doing. It's messing with a lot of Mets fans that maybe aren't reading between the lines too much. Again, I could be wrong, but I feel pretty confident that Donnie Stevenson is this fictional character they made up and they're having a lot of fun with. So, time will tell if they reveal him, but that's kind of my stance on it. And thank you so much, Card Coach, and thank you so much for offering about the 10K sub card. I'll gladly take you up on that for DeGrom. So thank you, my man. Always appreciate you. We have a couple more callers in, guys, and we're going to be going right up until 3 p.m. Eastern time. So this may very well be it for the callers. If we still have a couple minutes before 3 p.m. and there's some more people that are chimed in, we'll get them through. But otherwise, we have 2 more to go. And now we have Chris. What is up, my man? Thanks so much for chiming in. And if you have any questions or quick comments on the Mets right now, let me hear it.
Yeah, man. How's it going?
I'm doing great.
So I just have 2 things I wanted to say. First of all, what's going on with Lindor? Have you seen him swing at these outside pitches?
Yes, I've watched every game. Yep.
Dude, he's like flicking his wrist, He's not even hitting these outside pitches. He's just flicking his wrist at him. He can't hit outside. Is the coaches not realizing this?
No, they are. And that's something where, the coaches are realizing it. They're sharing their stances with him as much as they can. But you also have to realize from a player perspective, you have Chili Davis as a hitting coach and you have all these things, but they can share their stances with you all they want. But at the end of the day, how much does a player put that into, say, their adjustments is a different story. And Lindor is a guy who's not just been unlucky, but you're right. He has not been able to hit for opposite field whatsoever. It's been a big struggle. But in a nutshell, yes, I understand what you're saying. It is a cause for concern. Am I worried about the entire season for him? No, I'm not. But would I be lying if I said I wasn't frustrated, because I can clearly tell he's frustrated at the plate and things have not gone in rhythm yet? Yes, I can say that.
Yeah, man, it's a huge cause for concern. And just one more thing I want to touch on so you can get at least 1 or 2 people more in here. Was I the only one that felt this sense of joy watching, what's his name, Alvarado walk the bases loaded? Did anybody else feel what I felt?
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree, Chris. I felt the exact same way. And again, I appreciate you chiming in, my man. So regarding Alvarado, I went nuts yesterday. I was speaking my mind plenty on Twitter. And yeah, I was just karma's a you know what. That's kind of how I felt with the Alvarado situation and Hoskins to an extent, getting unlucky there on what very well could have been a home run. It was just this close though, and it fell short. So yeah, Alvarado and Hoskins, Alvarado in particular though, karma's a dish best served with 3 runs plus. So that was awesome. And knowing that Alvarado could have been out on that game if he didn't appeal his 3-game suspension is even funnier in hindsight. It was like karma, you know what? It's good. This is going to happen no matter how you feel about it. And I was definitely happy about the situation coming from a Mets side of things. But we have a couple more people. Here's another Mets fan here. Jake, what's up, buddy? What's your comment or question that you have regarding our New York Mets?
Hey, Tyler. How are you doing today?
I'm great, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I am a lifelong Mets fan, and I have lived most of my life in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Believe it or not, and I live with 2 other hardcore Philly fans.
Oh, of course.
Naturally, we were going crazy over the game last night. Could you just walk me through the emotions you were feeling through the 8th, through the 9th, with the bases loaded, the double, bases cleared, and then into that stressful 9th inning?
It was as textbook of a Mets game as I could imagine. I expect nothing less from this team. I was so happy that it was against Philly. It really was a roller coaster. You know, I say being a baseball and a Mets fan, they take years off my life as a young baseball fan. It's not good for my health, but damn, do I love it so much. And that's just how it is. Yeah, there really isn't too much a breakdown on my emotions. I was kind of just going all over the place. I was like, no way. I just had a smirk on my face the entire time between the VR situation, Alvarado getting blown up as soon as he was taken out of the game too, with the bases clearing double by Pete, and then getting into the 9th, the whole Diaz situation. I was like, oh no, like it was so textbook. It was so textbook. I felt like so much happened in a short period of time. But really, as a counter, I would really love to know quickly your stance on that game in a nutshell with your buddies, especially 2 diehard Phillies fans. How did that feel to get the W and the series W over them? And what was just your overall reactions like in a nutshell, if you could tell me?
Oh, it felt like the script was written with Alvarado loading the bases after what happened earlier. And they were feeling the same emotions we were about their bullpen blowing games and not being able to battle back right. And at some point they went up, they're saying like, I'm done with this game, I'm going to bed. And then they heard that Hoskins hit the home run to tie the game, and they all came back down, and then it got called off. It was a wild night.
Yeah, I know. I love that, though. Gets them out of the bed just for nothing. It, in my mind, from the Phillies' perspective, that felt like such a Mets performance in a lot of ways. Between Hoskins being lackadaisical and allowing VR to get home easy money without even a throw, just poor defensive situational situation made on his part. And then the same thing with, just the end. Like it was so textbook. The Mets, for a team for as long as I've been a fan, especially over the past 5 years, they've been a team that has just come this close. They'll battle back in a lot of games, but they just won't get over that hump. And that's really what I felt with the Phillies yesterday. So yeah, it is kind of
completely agree. Completely agree.
It's awesome how tables turn like that. But any other comments you'd like to make before I let you out here, buddy?
No, just love the streams. Keep it up. Let's go Mets.
Awesome. Thank you, Jake. I appreciate that. I wish you well in Philly. It takes a lot of cojones to be a guy of your Mets fandom in Philly like that. I appreciate and respect the hell out of it, though. And it looks like we're going to have our last caller for the day, and that is going to be none other than Steve-O, according to his name. So, Steve, what's up, buddy? What's your quick comment or question regarding our New York Mets? Do you hear me, Steve? I'll give him a minute because maybe his audio is just getting set up or something. But I'll give you a couple seconds, Steve, and he left. Okay, so Steve decided he didn't want to talk. That's perfectly fine. So in a nutshell, that is going to do it, guys, for our callers. I hope you guys enjoyed. We're right around 3 p.m. Eastern time, so I appreciate you all immensely chiming in. That was our preview and our the Phillies series, preview of the Cardinals series and recap against the Phillies. What a series victory that was, guys. I'm still so amped about it. I really am. And I can't wait for the series that starts tonight against the Cardinals. I feel like we just dive right back in the thick of things. So again, I appreciate everyone chiming in so much. Yes, it is. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you all so much, guys. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I will be live once again here on the channel starting right around, it's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern time, 40 to 45 minutes before the start time of the Cardinals game so I can share my pregame thoughts with you a little bit further, expand on that, and also to be game prepped for my actual in-game commentary for the game. So we'll be live tonight probably from 7 until, I don't know, I honestly don't know, probably easily past 11 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see. It's going to be a long stream. I hope to see you guys there. It's going to be a lot, and I mean a lot of fun. So again, if you haven't smashed that like and subscribe button, please do, guys. It really would mean the world to me if you enjoyed the stream and if you're excited for this series starting tonight against the Cardinals. But with all that being said, thank you all so much, guys. Have a great day, and I hope to see you guys later for our stream. So let's go Mets, baby. I'll talk to you soon.